Hello, everybody, and welcome to the set of building blocks. Today, we're talking about God's Word, and we're learning from Jesus himself. Yet again, I'm excited to get into the story, so let's get building. Today, we're talking about the Bible, and that's kind of a tough one. Why? Because the Bible doesn't really talk about the Bible, for the same reason that your history book doesn't talk about the history book. It talks about the history. The Bible doesn't talk about itself because it's busy talking about the wonderful and beautiful plan God has throughout time. But fortunately, we can return to the Sermon on the Mount and learn from none other than Jesus. Jesus took some time on that now famous hill to talk to us about the importance of not only knowing God's Word, but doing God's Word. Let's check it out. So here is Jesus on the Mount. Remember, the Sermon on the Mount refers to a time where Jesus taught on a hill in Israel. And with all his disciples there, Jesus said, "Therefore, anyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. Then the rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house. Yet it did not fall because it had its foundation on the rock." Now, when Jesus is talking about the rock, he's not talking about this rock, okay? Not this guy. Although this guy, it does look like you could build a house on him, but we're not talking about him today. And Jesus wasn't talking about this rock either, even though this rock would have been sick. You can't build a house on this kind of rock. The rock that Jesus is talking about is this kind of rock. Now, this is the kind of foundation you want for your house, but let's not get ahead of the story. Back to the mount. We'll just put this guy over here so he can rock out underneath the tree. Jesus went on to say that everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. So let's think about this. We've got two builders, one builder on rock and one builder on sand. And they both have built a house. But when the rain came and poured down on the houses, the one built on rock stood strong, but the one built on sand collapsed in a great crash. What is the difference between these two builders? What is Jesus trying to teach us with this story? Remember, let's think back. The one who built their house on the rock is the one who hears God's word and does it, right? Those are the two key things that Jesus taught us about this story, that we not only need to hear God's word, which means we listen to it, we read it, we know it, we also need to do it. That is the person who builds their house on the rock. So then Jesus and this rocker, after the message, are just chilling out, jamming out. They get under the tree and they just like rock out for about an hour or so. I'm just kidding, they didn't do that. It would have been sick if they did, but unfortunately they didn't have electric guitars back then. So they just had harps. So it was probably more like. That's all I've got for this time on Building Blocks. Thank you guys for joining me. I hope to see you guys back next week. But until then, keep on rocking out.